Alrighty guys, I'm Casey and welcome back to some Minecraft Bedrock Edition. We've been looking for some nice little wolves as of late, and I think we're going to continue that search today. And we've been doing a lot of talking in these past couple episodes, and I think I want to share with you guys my college experience, because I've talked about it that I attended college, but I haven't talked about it in great detail, like what I did at college, or so like where I went in college, all that kind of stuff. And I want to talk about my college adventure today. We will start back at my days in school. So I went to a school that was a couple of towns over. I didn't go to the doggy. First time. Check that out. Do I see another doggy? I see another doggy. Come on, doggy. Check it out. We got two dogs. Okay, so we need to befriend and tame 5, so we'll look around here. So I went to, oh, there's the doggy. I went to a college. I didn't go to the school that was in the town that I grew up in. I didn't go to the college that, the school that I was supposed to go to. I ended up going to a different one. My mum wasn't a big fan. She went to the school that I was supposed to go to. She did not like it one bit. She did not want me going there. So she was trying to get me in at this other place that she wanted me to go to. Unfortunately, I got rejected there because I lived too far away. So she decided to try and get me into the one that she went to. She didn't really want me going there, but there was no other choice because her choice of school got me turned down, and she didn't know anywhere else. So she applied about a month or so later, and I was turned down for being too late to apply. Shortly thereafter, there's the rest of my dogs. Shortly thereafter, a new girl started the school, and she applied to go to that school, and she got accepted. So one rule for one rule for another, I suppose. But I'm glad I never went to that school because I've heard about it. It's pretty much like a military academy. You have to walk on a single side of the hallway. You're not allowed to walk where you want on the hallway. If your shirt isn't precisely tucked in, and I mean like literally 100% tucked in, you get a little nick in it, that's cause for detention. You don't walk in a single file line, that's cause for detention. If they see a cell phone at all, or a mobile phone as we call them here in England, at all, that's cause for detention. I mean, what kid doesn't have one? Whether it's turned off or not doesn't matter. They're not allowed them at all at school. If they don't have a pen, that's cause for detention. If the pen they have runs out and they don't have a backup, that's a detention. It was literally dreadful. And I think now you're only allowed to write in black ink or blue ink. It's dreadful. My daughter's not going there because I don't want my daughter to place like that. So I ended up going to this one that was a couple of towns over. And I ended up meeting a friend that I would end up going to college with there. And a friend who I'm still friends with this day is actually one of my close friends. But, get him, boy. Does this have looting on it? I can't remember. No, just smite. So, I went to this school and I went there. I started about 2 months into year 7. And then I continued going until I was in year 11. Now, when I was in year 9, my nan, she fell and broke her hip. And she ended up, as a result of that, she ended up passing away. About a year later, about a year and a half later. So it was the end of year 9. So at the beginning of year 10, I barely went to school. My nan had, she didn't obviously, the fall didn't kill her. It wasn't the hip that killed her, but the hospital where she was is a very poor hospital. So poor actually that it's like 4 or 5 miles from where I live, and I travelled to the next hospital over when my wife was pregnant. She had our daughter, because I refused to. I was convinced. Oh, there's a village here. I was convinced if my wife had our daughter there, something would go wrong. So we had her at the city instead of the town. But I think we already found this village. I think yes. I remember all these villagers. We will I don't actually. Do I have Silk Touch? I think I do. Yes, I have on both of them. Cool. So, where was I? Oh, yes. We was talking about year 10 of mine, when my nan went into hospital. And anyway, she ended up contracting several infections. She had a hip replacement. She should have been alright. But she lost quite a lot of blood on the operating table. And there was something wrong with the blood that was left in her. It wasn't enough, as she was very tired, very sleepy. And anyone would have noticed that she just needed a blood transfusion. She needed blood. She got blood about 2 months after this, but the damage had already been done. She was really starting to show that she was poorly and ill. And it kind of woke up a little bit, but then her hip got infected. She got MSRA or MRSA, whichever way around that goes. And she ended up becoming very ill. She ended up suffering a couple of strokes due to it. And she ended up losing control of her, I think it was her left side, if I'm remembering correctly. And she ended up, her brain actually shrunk as a result, which wasn't good. She ended up forgetting like who she was, and it was like watching her battle Alzheimer's. Even though she didn't have Alzheimer's, it was kind of like watching her battle it. Because she was forgetting who people were, forgetting who she was. But she never forgot payday. She never forgot payday. She never forgot the day she got paid. But, yeah, so I was incredibly close to my nan. She was someone I'd lived with for several years. I didn't live with my nan and not with my mom. Me and my mom actually lived with my nan. My mom was my nan's primary carer, as my nan grew older in age. So, but my life was, I would wake up, when I wasn't living with my nan, I would wake up, I would go to school, and I would come home from school, and I would go straight to my nan's, and we would be there till 8 o'clock at night, which case me and my mom would go home. Yeah, we spent a lot of time at my nan's. I was very close to my nan. My nan had a brother-in-law who looked after her. My uncle Dan, I was very close to him. He was more like a father than an uncle to me. But, it's one regret I never told him that, and I wish I could have. Because he passed away too, unfortunately. But, yeah. So, my nan's husband died real young. He died of a heart attack in his 50s. Well, that's not real young, but it was before my time. It was before I was born. So, my uncle looked after my nan. He was very old-fashioned that way. His brother died, so it was his responsibility to look after my nan. And he loved my nan to bits. She was like another mother to him. So, when my nan went into hospital, I had no idea what was going on. This was my first real experience with death. I'd lost an aunt and a cousin before that, but I wasn't what you would call close to them. I was really young when they passed away. I was in single digits, so I didn't really know them that well. But my nan had been there my whole life. She'd been a vital part of it. And suddenly, she's forgetting who she is. I don't think death's a possibility. It doesn't even enter my mind. I'm just worried over my nan. I want my nan back. And so I ended up not going to college. Not going to school. I ended up helping my mum out, looking after my nan, and sort of learning how to use all the equipment that we needed to learn to look after her now, because she couldn't walk, she couldn't move very much. So she was needing equipment all the time to sort of move around and to bathe and whatnot. And while I didn't actually help with the physical bathing of my nan, I felt that was a little bit inappropriate. I did help with hoisting her up and moving her around using mechanical equipment. And I ended up not going to school. My mum was trying to get me to go, but I wouldn't go. And anyway, after about 3 or 4 months of not going, I finally got back into school. My mum got a fine, which was unfortunate. And I ended up going back to school. What's this? But I was... What is this? But I didn't want to go back. I didn't want to go back. I'd been gone quite a while. I had no idea. So when I went back, I spoke to a teacher called Mr. Golden. And he decided that the best bet for me to ease me back into it was to finish the rest of this term off. I went back sort of the beginning of the actual year, not the school year. So it'd be about January time I went back. And what it would be is I would be on half days for that term. And then starting in the next term, this would be April, I would start on full days, 1 a week, then 2 a week, then 3 a week, and etc., etc. And in the meantime, I would take home work to do at home. So because I was 3 or 4 months behind, I went to the support center, which was the special needs place for people with like autism or some sort of mental issues. And I just want to say something. I know that people should be treated equal, and I'm a big supporter of being treated equal, but I'm sorry, if you've got autism, nah, not equal. You are beyond equal. Because I have so many friends who have autism or variations of it, and they are some of the nicest people I have ever met. Like, straight up. So, you are beyond equal. In my eyes, you are something far superior. And that's my opinion. They are, I mean, you try talking to somebody who's got autism. And not an autism that affects their speech, you know, not the ones that are kind of shy. But have a conversation with somebody who's got a mental disability. And I guarantee you, after that conversation, you are going to walk away with a really, really good friend. I can guarantee it. I've met so many people with mental disabilities, and like all of them are absolutely just phenomenal people to know. So yeah, back on the case. So, oh, we're home. Cool. So, I need to go find a horse now. But I want to put my wolves back here. Wolf eye. So, anyway, I ended up with this teacher called Mr. Sweet in the support center. And he decided that after, like, 2 weeks, he was going to put me back on 4 days. Now, as far as I knew, he wasn't the one who was looking after me. He wasn't my caseworker, so to speak. He wasn't the person who was responsible for me. That was Mr. Golden. I had, every time I wanted to see about work, every time I wanted to see about anything, it was Mr. Golden that I went to. It was Mr. Golden who was dealing with me. He was the one who had weekly meetings with me, not Mr. Sweet. So, I just ignored what Mr. Sweet said. I didn't like the guy. But anyway, I ended up not going full days when he wanted me to. And shortly thereafter, Mr. Golden took ill, and he was off school for several months. So I had no idea who my caseworker was anymore, who was dealing with it. And it turned out that it was primarily Mr. Sweet. And so I ended up not going to school when I was supposed to. I wasn't doing 4 days. I didn't feel comfortable doing 4 days. I was still behind months on work. If I was to jump back into my lessons full time, 5 lessons a day, in my eyes, I would be nowhere. I was already catching up. I had caught up about a month's worth of the work I'd missed out on. I missed out about 3-4 months worth of work. I caught up on about a month in about 2 weeks. You know, or at least their average. I'd been working on one subject. I was caught up in English because Mr. Golden wanted me to catch up in one subject at a time. So he wanted me to do all of the 3 months worth of English work as quick as possible and then get back into my English lessons. And the way that my lessons were laid out, there weren't no lessons that was purely in the afternoon that I didn't have at some point during the week in the mornings. You know, I had English, science, and maths. I had lessons in both mornings and afternoons. So for me, it wasn't missing out on them. And we were working. I just finished in 2 weeks. I just finished learning about Shakespeare, and I had one more English assignment due before I was ready to go back into English. Science, I'd already been thrown back in. Sorry, not science. Why did I say science? Maths, I'd already been thrown back in. I was far superior at maths. I was in the top class for maths. And when we went back, he asked me which lesson I'd like to start with. I said maths because I'm good at it. He spoke to my teacher, my maths teacher, who taught me for 3 years, and he says, bring him straight in, he'll pick it up immediately, and I did. So I was back in maths. I was starting to get back into English, but then he wanted me all of a sudden to do full days, all lessons. And I was like, well, no, I can't do that. But anyway, I ended up, where are we? It ended up getting to a point where he started, if I didn't go to these lessons and I came to the support center to work, he was marking me as absent, which you can't do. Because if there was a fire, like there was a fire drill, and we went outside for the fire drill, they read your name out, and they only read the name out of people who are there. And every time there was a fire drill, we had one like every month or so. Every time there was a fire drill, I would put my hand up and I'd be like, you didn't read my name out. And he would say, well, it says here, you're not here. I went, I know, Mr. Sweet isn't giving me my mark because I'm not attending a lesson, even though I'm doing what me and Mr. Golden agreed upon. And then my tutor would end up marking me there. So I ended up still missing school. My mum got threats for another fine. She reported him. I don't know whatever came of that report. We do definitely need... Let's go this way. Let's go. Is this north? I feel like... Where's the sun? That's not helpful. Looks like it's going up. Rises in the east, sets in the west. So, one of these ways is north. We'll go this way. So, I ended up not doing what I was supposed to do at college. And then, come Easter, my nan passed away. Oh, befriend 5 wolves. Sweet. Popped up on my phone. My nan passed away. Mr. Sweet told me, I came into school at the beginning of the week. He's like, where were you last week? I was like, my nan died. And I'm not going to be in on Thursday or Friday because it's my nan's funeral. And he turns to me and he says, look, if you are not in every day this week, you miss one more day, one more lesson, I'm going to pull you out of your GCSEs. And I said, look, you know I'm not going to be in. You know now, I'm telling you now, I'm not going to be in Thursday or Friday. My nan is being buried. And he did not care. And he ended up pulling me from a lot of my GCSEs. So, even though I was a very intelligent student and I was due to get high grades, I ended up leaving school with no grades. Even maths, I ended up with an E in. It was the highest grade I got was an E in maths, and that was only because he only put me forward for the mental maths test. And he didn't do that. I turned up for that test even though I wasn't supposed to. I didn't know it was taking place. He gave me a schedule for my GCSE tests. And it had like 3 tests on there. And every day of the week, I got a call from the school. Why aren't I in for this test? Why aren't I in for that test? I'd shown them my timetable that he had given me that said I didn't have some of these tests. And I'd missed them and I couldn't make them up. So he'd pulled me out of some. But he'd also given me a wrong timetable. So either tests that I was in, I wasn't able to attend to because they weren't on my timetable. And anyway, a couple of years after I left school, he ended up getting fired. And I don't know what came of this, but there were charges brought against him for gross misconduct with female students. There were rumors going around that he was, I don't know how to put it on a family-friendly channel, but he was exploring with teenagers he shouldn't be exploring with. They were the rumors, but I know like a couple of years after I left, he was fired. And I have no idea what became of it after that. Now, you may think to yourself that, hey, you must really hate this guy for screwing you over. Well, I did. I did for 2 years. For 2 years after I loathed this guy. I really did. For 2 years. Then it hit me that then something happened. And what happened would not have happened had I been in my GCSEs. What happened? What caused me to let go of the rage I felt for him? What caused me to let go of all that anger? Well, we're almost at 20 minutes for this episode, so I think we're going to continue the story into the next episode. I'm kind of enjoying telling it. So you've heard about my school years. In the next episode, we talk about my college years. Guys, that's going to do for this episode. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you enjoyed the video, please do consider leaving a like and click subscribe if you want to see more. As always, guys, with these discussion episodes, feel free to Sound off in the comment section. Tell me about your school stories. What are you doing in school now? What do you want to be? All that kind of stuff. Yeah, guys, I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.